Intel and AMD earnings last week. What happened? Are we back, baby? Is the data center back, or is it Painville at this point?
Well, this is what I want to get some of your take on as well. Yeah, I guess you can look at it one of two ways, right? Without context, you maybe you'd be a little bit concerned. I think Intel was down 15% year over year for data center, and AMD was either up or down 2% or so. But I look at it as I look at it a little bit differently. I think Intel has hit a turning point, and I know we've talked about this in the past. When you look at kind of the trajectory of Intel and AMD over the last few years, it's certainly been AMD heavy, right? I mean, there's been a big ascent from AMD, and Intel has kind of slipped a little bit. AMD's had the advantage from a performance perspective, from love of the media perspective, so on and so forth. It feels to me like Gelsinger coming in, what Lisa Spellman has done, and Sandra Rivera, they've really kind of turned things around on the data center side. And I feel like, they've kind of hit that bottom, and I'm starting to see, certainly customer sentiment, and I'm starting to see it in the numbers. While the numbers are down, they're certainly better than they were. And it feels like there's some positive momentum building on that side. And AMD, I think in the face of a down cloud market, the company has done well to be where it is. And we haven't seen the influence or the impact of Bergamo, their cloud part, which we'll talk about later, hitting the market as well. So, I think there's positive to pull from both of these if you kind of look at things in context. But you know financials better than I did. I wanted to kind of get what your take is on all of this.
You think I might actually have an opinion on this? Yeah, absolutely have an opinion on this.
Maybe.
So there's a couple things going on here with both these companies financially. And again, kind of as a reminder, we're not equities analysts, but the reason that we show up for earnings call, it's the source of truth, right? You can't you can only spin less than you normally could because you might get sued or something by investors. And so there's the status of the market. There's how that company is doing in that market, and then there's other opportunities they may not be participating in.
Mm-hmm.
Macro view, both Intel and AMD, people want to know how they get some of that discrete GPU AI goodness that drove NVIDIA to $1 trillion market cap, right? That is the number one question that is happening, and both companies are getting their arms ready to do this. The latest from AMD we saw with the MI300, which is an inference data center play, one card, massive memory footprint for foundational models, and of course inside of that sphere, LLMs. And then on the Intel side, right, they have Habana, they have data center GPUs, and like AMD, they have AI that can be accelerated inside of Xeons and Epics. Yeah. So that is the macro of how it's going. And Intel, then on the financial side, is digging out of a hole that it created, where it took a 2.5 year lead in fab technologies and capabilities and turned that into a 2.5 year deficit. Okay, literally a 5 year movement, and they've been digging themselves out of that. And what that impacts design. So think of a design you locked in on that was like, hey, we're creating this design around 7 nanometer. It ends up you can only do 14 or you can only do 10. You're literally backporting. You're making the core smaller. You have to relook at your energy budget. So yeah, literally digging themselves out of that giant hole. And this quarter for Intel was, hey, better than expected. And I actually talked to Pat Gelsinger. I was out in Korea, and we talked through that. And he was he's going to be conservative, not like, oh my God, we're back, baby. He's like, no, this is, first of all, what Gelsinger committed to is a 5-year plan. And he's like, we're in year 3. And I always try to bring that out in my articles. So we got about 2.5 years to go here to get them out here. And I always focus on the 5 nodes in 4 years.
Yeah.
Let's not debate what a real node is, but they're on track to do that. And if they can hit 5 nodes in 4 years and, complete this OpEx CapEx $200 billion investment in foundries and fabs, in addition to IFS and buying Tower. It's going to be a force to reckon with. Intel is always the most dangerous when you have them in a corner. Matt, you and I worked at AMD. Guess what? Sir. We were gaining, we had 30% server market share and 45% consumer client share. Yep. We were crushing them. And then AMD lost the recipe. Intel, Martians landed and dropped this architecture called the Core architecture, designed out of the Israeli design center, and AMD went away for a couple of years. So, yeah.
You know, Pat, one other thing on that I find interesting, and where Intel enterprise IT is always a laggard when it comes to adoption, and I think Intel was smart to focus on making sure it kept that kind of anchor, right? They put a lot of effort into pricing and other concessions to try and keep a stronghold there. And I think that has served them well as they attempt this turnaround, or, kind of go through this turnaround, because cloud is always going to move to fastest, best, cheapest. They can move a lot more quicker. But Intel's really held on there. So I think that helps with the whole kind of, where do they go and how do they maintain their footing? So it's a fun play, and AMD has done great too. So I don't mean to, but it's certainly fun. It's good for the market.
I mean, the client computing market was down 50%. AMD was down 50% in client computing.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
and then,
Hey, Pat, quick anecdote. So I've been spending time with the Intel confidential computing team. You and I had that briefing with Rick and company a few months ago. As I spend more time with them, I'm really impressed with what they're doing to drive adoption of SGX and TDX extensions and fourth generation Xeon scalable processors. And really, they're positioning themselves very well to provide silicon level security for AI workloads. And so getting back, AI is the hottest thing. I'm going to talk about that when I talk about Black Hat. But they're really positioning themselves well, I think, for the future, and securing not only the data, but these AI models is going to be critical. So I think they're doing some great stuff, and you'll hear more about that. I'm actually working with them on a research brief. So
awesome. That's awesome. Hey, we've talked a lot about this, and I think it deserves a lot of this. I mean, so much competition, so much market cap value.